I decided to pull up some images that I was doing. Sometimes when I'm sitting here and listening to beautiful Ekashe music, I was thinking about some past experiences that I've had, and particularly as it relates to contemporary times, about machine code, or if you will, machines or order followers, robots. And I was listening to Metapeak put a little thing up about Baphomet, Satanic networks, AI nets, and programming codes, and what they call a cult. So when I hear the word cult, the next thing that I do is add something onto that called cultural programming, circulation speed programming. And so I was thinking about some of the folks that I used to work with, because in a military hierarchical command system, because I worked in that system for many, many years. Okay, I started out working for the California Department of Forestry with the Orange County Fire Department in 1970. That led to working from Orange County to San Diego County, where I worked for the same outfit, which is San Diego County, California Department of Forestry. And then I jumped to the United States Forest Service, worked with that outfit. They're all basically the same outfit. It's all military hierarchical controlled, right? So here, I'll give you an example of how, sort of how it is when you get into programming and machine code programming and deadlight programming, or if you will, the AI, order followers, okay? And I think I shared one time in the past that I had an experience in knowing the difference between deadlight and eternal living light, which is living energy of a living spirit, and how that related to being assigned one day to an engine that I was an engine operator, an engineer, okay, but I didn't have a crew boss rating yet. I did later, but not then. Well, under their hierarchical command, you realize how it works with what we call delegated authority. So they assign somebody to my engine, okay, that is an order follower, okay, machine-coded order follower, assigned to the engine I was on with a couple other firefighters, and we get assigned that day, and we end up going to a fire, wildland fire, and we get down there, and here's 34-mile-an-hour winds, pushing 15, 20, 30-foot high winds with Santa winds, where it was very dry, and it was going to take this house out. And so things happen very fast. This is a very electrodynamically linked library of circulation speed libraries of everybody that is running circuits, the speed at which we're completing circuits. So I realized that when you're making a decision, a command decision, the command authority override of ions, the ion circuitry. I saw something in the mirror in the future that I didn't want to experience. So that meant that I had to countermand a commander's order, which in the military is considered what? Mutiny on the bounty, which is a hanging offense in their admiralty law under their ships, pirate ships, intergalactic pirate ships, right? And so as it turned out, I countermanded the orders of a guy that wanted to grab a smaller hose with higher pressure, okay, when we should have been using a graded Y. Equal distribution, the brilliance of its golden triangle, and we ended up saving the house, okay? And this is where an override can override a machine. I overrode a machine, the machine code. Because that being, that state of consciousness that was running those machine codes could not see the future result of the decision that that commander was making that could have got people killed. And those kind of commanders were getting people killed in all our wars. Vietnam, Korea, the Pacific, World War II. Pick any war that you want. It's a war game theater. It's an AI Star Wars video game. Native spirits experience an eternal, absolute, pure love. Spinning a vortex. We can see it. Remember, expecting a different result over and over and over again. Cut the cycle, cut the abuse, cut the cycle, generation after generation after generation after generation after generation of what? Breeding sound patterns that are distorted. Because they're not picking up on the first signal so that they can experience a future result, which is what love is. Yeah? So that was an example of how I overrode the authority of a machine. And as a result, I got called to the carpet the next day. And so I mentioned this to a few people that, hey, buddy, since you're the guy that hired me because you felt that I was qualified to do the job, but you put another guy on that engine who wasn't qualified to do the job because whether you realize this or not, and I dare not expose that to the guy who was my boss because that was another machine. Whoa, you're going to expose another machine to another machine. I don't think that's a very intelligent thing to do. Okay, so take your lumps. I got a job to do. Remember, I got to get to a future destination, and I'm actually already there. But to get there, I got to make sure I get through you because you're an obstacle. So you know what an obstacle course is, right? You're navigating a gyrodome, a rainbow gyrodome, through a consciousness field, trying to get to the next event, the next circuit that gets completed, right? And so it's navigating through the consciousness field to maintain what? The eternal peace of Amaranth. At all costs, maintain that peace, that center point, 0 degrees, right? Maintain the balance of the poles. Yeah. Maintain the balance of the poles, being one magnet, one pole, mononuclear. The silver and gold one made it as one. I experienced being one. And so I was reminiscing about that because I thought of this guy that I used to have who was a fire captain who became a battalion chief with San Bernardino County Fire. And bless your heart, Jack. And he worked for an old guy that came out of Tennessee, which was known as a coon dog. And he was a task driver, right? But he had a reputation for chasing the spirit of fire, just like he was chasing coons with his dogs, bloodhounds, pointers. And so I was thinking to myself, he wasn't unpleasant to be with. But remember, he's taking orders because you know how the snowball rolls downhill, right? Somebody else at the top is going to be responsible for the decision that they made to hire somebody below them. So if they end up getting somebody killed, then the guy that hired them looks bad. So that's like the guy that hired me, but assigned the guy that wasn't qualified as a machine to try and override somebody in spirit who can see the result before he can. But the guy that hired me didn't know that about the guy that he assigned in my crew. Because I didn't have a permit. When we're the ones that issue the permits to travel. Now you know what inverted is. The inverse squared that is proportional to the amount of serenity that we experience by not trying to control what everybody else experiences through machine code. So we override the machine code. That's right. Because you can't argue against what love is. That's why I found it necessary. You know what it means to when you're in their chain of command system. Fine, you're a sergeant and I'm a corporal, then I'll just go to the lieutenant. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to point out to each rank. This one doesn't know how to make a command decision. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so now we get to lieutenant, now we get to a captain, now we get to a major, now we get to a bird colonel, and now we get to an admiral. How many stars do we got to keep going all the way up before we get to the head honcho? Right? It's called pulling rank. Remember, it's called pulling rank. Pull their bars. They don't know what they're doing. They're killers. They're machine code killers. Killing machines. Noisemakers. That's right. Rise of the machines. As Dante Sartori once said on one of his videos, we keep our machines dumb as toasters. right? Medicine is laughter, but it's not funny. Fortunately, the family was able to come home to that house that day, seeing their house intact. Because you know how it is with visual displays. That's why I never look at the number on my bank account. Because you know what a reaction state is in a visual mathematical display is, right? Particularly as it relates to reversal spin. Right? The visual display. Oh, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to experience that math. Turn the phone off. Turn the laptop off. Don't look at your ATM. Don't look at your bank account. That number that you see there, you know why that number is there? It's designed to cause reversal spin in your state of consciousness. If you look at that number and have a reversal spin, because you will have a reversal spin, because what produced what you see in the visual display is reversal spin. That's the AI. People have captive to, which is red and black goo, D1 atomic implosion code, visual displays. That's right. It's an implosion display. I know, Mama. That's why we're here. The emeralds are here. Have a beautiful afternoon. We love you all.